Hey, it's the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker. And as we get started, Jeff Passan literally turning out the bulletin, apparently official right now. The Padres are acquiring closer Mason Miller and a starter, J.P. Sears, from the A's, according to Jeff Passan. Don't know who the A's are getting back in exchange for Mason Miller. But all the rumors, Matthew, have been that the Padres wanted to convert Mason Miller into a starter. They've got, as we saw over the weekend, and we'll see again this weekend, an electric bullpen. Mason Miller is an electric closer, but apparently A.J. Preller and Mike Shilton think that they can turn him into a starting pitcher. And so Mason Miller, as trade deadline day continues, is now a member of the Padres.
And it looks like we have the return here from Jeff Passan. Shortstop Leonidas DeVries, the number 3 overall prospect in baseball, along with 3 pitchers from San Diego for Mason Miller and J.P. Sears.
So there you have it. We'll talk about more about that. We want you to chat. We want to talk about the Cardinal trades yesterday. Phil Maton still has not been moved. Rumors that he is possibly on his way to Toronto. Our buddy Derek Gould of STL Today reporting that Phil Maton, for the uninitiated to the Randy Karraker Show, stayed back in St. Louis as Steven Matz did. Matz traded to Boston last night. Bob Nightingale of USA Today tweeting this morning that, quote, the St. Louis Cardinals, who are wide open for business, have several teams, including the Houston Astros and Philadelphia Phillies, expressing interest in the likes of Lars Nootbaar, Alec Burleson, and Brendan Donovan. So that's something that we will keep an eye on throughout the course of the day. And now, with Isaac Paredes being out for apparently 7 months with a torn hamstring, maybe the Astros, who this past weekend told Bob Nightingale, we aren't going to revisit Nolan Arenado, will do so. I have to believe that with Eugenio Suarez, if you didn't hear, going to the Seattle Mariners last night from Arizona, there are teams out there that need production from third base that might think that they can get a miracle from Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I thought John Denton did a fantastic job talking about Nolan Arenado's reaction to watching Ryan Helsley get traded, and he seemed legitimately bummed by the idea. Mm-hmm. And obviously, anytime there's a lot of players, Miles Michaelis talked about losing him, Ali Marmol talked about losing him. Obviously, no one wants to see these players go, but specifically, Nolan Arenado talked about developing a really strong friendship with Ryan Helsley over the last few years. And when you talk about him potentially getting moved, potentially looking at the list he's allowing the Cardinals, that he would, what's the word I'm looking for? He would pass by his no trade clause.
Bypass.
Bypass. There's a better word for it. You just flipped it around there. I said pass by.
Pass by. Yeah,
that's much better. We'll see. I've got some things to take care of first. It'll probably be fine without a trade, but we'll let it play out and see where it goes. That was Nolan Arenado in the postgame last night. He now seems to kind of be looking like there seems to be a little bit of a flip was switched watching Helsley leave.
I would think that he probably was in somewhat of a state of denial and thought that he had a chance to win here. And now I think his chances to win here are pretty null in the next year. Let me put it this way. If he's not going to be around and a quality player, he might not even be a quality player now, when the Cardinals are ready to win again. And with the departure of Helsley, normally when the Cardinals have had closers go in the past, they've had guys that have wound up being pretty good guys that are on the horizon. You kind of had a feeling about who the next guy might be. Man, you look now, Matthew, at this roster. Is it Leahy? Is it Graceffo? Is it Riley O'Brien? Is it Swanson? Is it Granillo? Is it Romero? This is one audition that Ali Marmol will have the opportunity to make if indeed the Cardinals wind up in a situation where they need to close games. But they can take the next couple of months to try to figure out who's capable of getting the 27th out. And I think, by the way, Leahy will be projected by the Cardinals now to be a starting pitcher in 2026 also.
Yeah, and hopefully, I'm not sure. I think people now can hear me as I'm talking. Apparently, they couldn't hear me when we opened the show. You were fine, Randy. They were hearing you loud and clear. Our mics are plugged into the same port, so I don't know how that works. So I don't remember what I was talking about first because now I've been completely thrown off by everything that just happened there. Yeah, by stuff happening behind the scenes. But the bottom line is, Arenado would seems to be like his mindset has flipped because of the Helsley trade. And I know this is probably pie in the sky, a ridiculous thought process, but I'm gonna dive into it anyway. Seems like if Helsley would have got moved in December, maybe the conversation around the Astros trade maybe would have been different.
Yeah, that could be,
because it seems like you said, is he getting through the denial part of it? And he was always saying, well, maybe we can finally figure something out. And as long as I'm here and we're over 500, he'll be here or something along those lines. But it does make me think, and again, I might be being ridiculous, man, if they just could have pulled the trigger on Helsley in December, maybe all the conversations around Arenado and bypassing that no trade clause could have been a little different.
Yeah, I wonder, was there, and I honestly don't recall if a closer was moved during the offseason. There were several free agent signings, obviously, the Dodgers, but was there a major league closer, an impact guy? Chapman signed as a free agent. Baltimore didn't get one. The Yankees traded for Devin Williams, I guess, so there's one.
Yeah.
Let's see, Minnesota, KC didn't, Detroit didn't, Cleveland, Chicago, Oakland, and Ryan Presley got traded but didn't wind up being a closer, and he wasn't that good. And the Cardinals were going to deal with the Cubs. Mose never made a deal with the Cubs.
Phillies and White Sox flipped Gilbert and Combs.
Yeah, that's
nothing
big. So when you look at the market for closers during the offseason, it seems like teams were more interested in the idea of getting a guy as a free agent rather than making a deal where you give up assets at that time of year. It's different once you have your bullpen set, or you lose guys, or the players that you have don't work out. The deadline is a different animal than the offseason, because think of how many years the Cardinals went into the offseason thinking, okay, well, we've got this guy, Chris Perez, or we've got this guy, Jordan Hicks, or we've got this guy, Ryan Helsley, or we've got this guy, Jason Mott. They're willing to give those guys a chance, Mitchell Boggs. And most teams do that. They want to give a young pitcher a chance. They say, yeah, he can be our closer. Then he either gets hurt or they find out by the time the trade deadline arrives that they don't have that guy. Look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers had 3 different closers. They had Kirby Yates, they had Trinan, they had Tanner Scott, and none of them have been able to stay healthy and be the closer for him this year. So they're looking for a guy, and they might not even get one, because who's left now? Who are the Dodgers going to get that's a closer out there?
Maton?
Well, he could.
Jojo Romero?
He's not exactly established closers.
No.
You say, okay, you know who's out there that could be traded is Kenley Jansen, ironically, who's with the Angels, and they could move him.
How about the Angels yesterday? Apparently saying that because they've won a couple of games in a row, they're like, you know what, we might try to make a run at this. They're 5 games back, and that might be the one player they actually trade is Kenley Jansen, and that's insane to me.
That's just bad ownership.
It's terrible ownership.
Yeah, he's Artie Moreno is not a very good guy to run an organization. All right. STL Sports Central, Shane Bieber to Toronto. Yep, that happened earlier this morning. So Toronto gets Biebs. They're still interested in bullpen help, and they're going to have a pretty solid starting 5. That's going to be a good team and a threat come playoff time. They've got a lot of good things going. Eric Letford, Nolan Arenado, agent should tell him he won't win in St. Louis and ask to be traded. Well, he asked to come here, and he turned down 3 different opportunities to leave via an opt-out. He likes it here, but no, he's not going to win here. And I do think, rather than asking to be traded, the way these things generally work is that if a player has a no-trade clause, they want to get some remuneration. They want to get something back in exchange for giving up the no-trade clause. And I don't think that Joel Wolf, the agent for Arenado, or Nolan are any different. If they get moved, they're going to want something about it. Even when he got moved here, and he wanted it, he forced a move to St. Louis, he got an extra year and $15 million tacked onto his contract. And he got the no trade to be included still, and he got an extra opt-out. So, and that was when he desperately wanted to come here. So if he's lukewarm on going somewhere else, I don't think that he'd want to give up that leverage and that opportunity to either make more or have more power in the relationship.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that goes in business. I have a part of my contract that gives me value. If you want me to give up that part of the contract, you have to show me the money in a way.
Yep, no doubt. Bill Downton, going into the trade for Helsley, I was hoping for 2 teams' top 30 prospects and a wild card, which we got. Yeah, we got the Cardinals wound up with 2 decent prospects and then Frank the Tank.
Yeah, I think the important part isn't necessarily to look at where the prospects were ranked in the opposing teams' rankings. The important thing is to look at where they get ranked inside the Cardinals prospect system. And Baez comes in at number 6 for the Cardinals. Blaze Jordan comes in at number 19, and Dome slots in at number 15 in the Cardinals system. So I think that's a pretty fair return. There was a lot of different reactions to the return from Ryan Helsley last night, and I think part of the reason that it was affected was that a lot of people had seen the reaction for Duran, and they didn't bring into account the control factor.
2 years for Duran.
His 2.0, his ERA in the 2 as opposed to Ryan Helsley's ERAs in the 3. Those 2 factors, especially more so the control than the ERA, for being honest, those are going to shift the value quotient you're looking at in a big way. And so that's why you just can't compare what the Cardinals got to the other deals based on just these huge difference in what these players are.
And I think the other thing that we need to remember as a fan base is you'd like to get guys that are major league ready. You'd like to get guys that say, okay, we're going to help the Cardinals. We're going to get guys to help the Cardinals in 2026. But the Cardinals are going to have a logjam on the 40-man roster as it is before they made the trades. And I think one of the reasons that they're trading for, they traded for 3 players from the Mets that are not going to wind up initially on the 40-man, is that they don't want to have to protect guys in the Rule 5. They're already overloaded with people that they'll have to protect in the Rule 5. And I know you might say, I don't care about Tekoa Roby, and I'm with you. Mm-hmm. I will roll the dice on Tekoa Roby, but they're just going to have a lot of players. Robertsay, Zerpe, Zach Thompson, Radjic, Hansen, Motts. You've got your Springfield rotation. You've got Bernal, you've got Joshua Baez, you've got Jimmy Crooks, you've got Wingquest. There's a ton of talent that the Cardinals have in their system, or at least they think it's talented, that they don't want to just have walk out the door in the Rule 5 draft. And the way I think that they'll have to wind up doing this is they'll just have to get rid of people that are rid of. They'll have to leave unprotected people from the major league roster or non-tender them.
Yeah, and just looking at the 40-man right now, you can lop off 10 spots pretty easy, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a log jam. It's just decisions have to be
and it's
made.
People off of the major league roster. You can trade Thomas and JC. You can Hampson, Fermin, Lucan Baker, Cesar Prieto. I have no problem, like I said, with moving on from Roby. If he gets taken by somebody, that's fine. Ciani. There's enough guys out there that you can make those moves.
Roy Croft.
But you don't want to add 3 more. That's my point.
Yes.
Because what you want to do is get down to 38 when you go into the winter meetings so that you can take some Rule 5 guys.
And if you look at Baez, I'm not going to act like I know a lot about these guys. I'm just going to tell you what I've read. Baez has a huge arm, and he has power potential from the third base spot. That's his profile. Even Elisant, the wild card of the 3, has really good strikeout and power pitching numbers right now at a very low level, obviously, just coming out of college or low A, I should say. I think that's what it is. Good numbers there as a strikeout pitcher. So there's reasons to have some positivity in the long arc of things. But to your point, there's why they're not necessarily worried about the ETA of these players right now.
Right. By the way, are you intrigued by the idea of having Mason Blaze win at shortstop and then Blaze Jordan somewhere else on the infield?
You read my flipping mind. I don't care about the actual players. I just care about cool names. Yeah, names. I just cool about good names, which is why obviously we do have to make sure that we don't lose Markevian Tink Hence.
No,
I don't care if he's hurt every day.
He's protected.
That name, you got to protect him. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, Blaze Jordan's fun. That's such a fantastic name. I wish he was still kind of had that pure power hitting profile he had as a draftee. It's kind of fallen off a little bit. His slug's not exactly where you want it to be when you see power profile. But maybe he can find his swing again. That was Jared Carabas over in Boston, who does a lot of podcasting there. Had him on as a guest a couple of times. He was a big fan of him as a prospect. And so hopefully he can find that swing again, because any kind of power, especially from the corner infield spots, that's something that's nice to add to this organization.
What will happen when he gets really, really hot at the major league level?
He's blazing.
Exactly. A couple of texts, and we love hearing you on the chat line here on the old YouTube. And I like this one. What the hell happened to Arenado? I think that's just a really good question.
Yeah, Hockman had a good piece today. Just like you look at him and you're like, that's all Nolan Arenado, but it's not Nolan Arenado. It's a husk in a way, and
yeah, it's
sad.
Yeah, and I think there's probably an injury there, whether it's the shoulder or the back. I would lean towards the shoulder, and then he's getting older, and we don't have steroids anymore. So guys that are 34, 35 that used to get better at that age magically don't anymore. And I think he's probably he's definitely on the downside, but he might be done as an offensive player.
Some people who have been staunchly against this idea have shifted in the last 24 hours or 15 hours because moves are starting to be made. But Chris Horton asks you, have you shifted at all? Randy, do you think trading Brendan Donovan would be a good idea? Have you shifted at all in your mindset on that? Because you and Brendan on Tuesday broke down all the reasons why you wouldn't support it. Have you shifted at all?
If Houston is interested and they're going to offer Hunter Brown, I'm all over it.
Starting pitching, essentially, is your answer.
Yeah. If I can get a guy that is a starting pitcher or has a chance to be a number one, is major league ready, I will. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, but it's got to be worthwhile, because there's no good reason to trade him for the kind of package that the Cardinals got for Helsley yet. I think people want to trade veteran players for young players because they think it's cool, but it doesn't help your team when you trade good players. And the sweet spot for a baseball player is between the ages of 28 and 32. And he's right there in the middle of his prime. Cardinals still expect to be reasonably competitive in 2027. So I would want to keep him around unless I could get a Brown from Houston, a Painter from Philadelphia, one of those kind of guys.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I would be willing to make the big swing because he's such a pillar part of your team, but he plays positions that you conceivably be able to fill, while the one thing he could get you is starting pitching, and that's the one thing you desperately need. I like this look from you, Mama. If we trade Nato, because some team feels they missed on the Suarez move, and trade Newt because the team misses on Quan, that is A+ deadline pulled off by Mo. That was one thing. The timing of Eugenio Suarez was big for me, because it happening with so much time now that the Cardinals can do every little bit of due diligence on a potential Nolan Arenado trade. Plus, clearly Nolan Arenado seeming like his mindset has changed with the Helsley trade. Like, those things all, I don't think I've been more confident that a Nolan Arenado trade is possible since the season started.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Who do you think would be? Obviously, we're hoping I think you'd all hope that Houston would rekindle interest. I don't think the Dodgers have to be so focused on pitching right now, on bullpen guys. I think if they're going to utilize a chip, it's not going to be for Arenado, and the Cardinals don't have any. Well, they have Maton, but they don't have a closer back. I think the Dodgers are in the market for a closer right now. So I'm wondering who the team would be, or teams that would be interested in Arenado. Matt Shaw has heated up for the Cubs. I maybe Arenado would go to the Tigers. I'm not sure, but I just wonder who at this stage is interested in him. The Yankees got their third baseman already. We'll see.
Think the Astros could still be in play?
I think, yeah, because their third baseman is out for a long time. The Crawford boxes are there. He hits a lot of balls here that would be home runs in Houston. Yeah. So perhaps that's a possibility. But that was that comment by Dana Brown about he misunderstood what we were going to be this year. I thought that was telling, but maybe the Astros will say, yeah, we'll revisit this.
Any possibility, even with the positivity around Max Muncy that the Dodgers would make the move? You
I
think,
think-
there's still anything there?
I think the only way to do it is the way I suggested. And I think with Helsley gone, it's probably very difficult now. I don't think that you'd be able to pull it off.
That's fair.
But if the Cardinals can find a place where he would be comfortable and a team that's willing to give them anything, they should do it.
Is there a prospect, or what level of prospect would you be willing to attach to get a team to take out Nolan Arenado?
I would say whatever player you want to give us, whatever you think the worst player in your organization is.
No. You have to give them a
if-
prospect in
oh,
addition
okay.
to
I'm giving
Arenado,
up-
because
I'm
we know they
giving up
don't
value.
want to do it. But I'm saying
Yeah.
is, what is the level that you would bite the bullet at the prospect to say we'll do this?
Yeah, I'd much rather do an expiring contract.
That's fair.
I don't think that I want to give up prospects to get rid of him.
Damn. I give up Nathan Church for him.
Oh yeah. I would do that.
That was
You
what
know,
pissed off the
I would
chat,
actually like if the Dodgers wanted to do Newbar,
Yes,
I would do that.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I think there are just a few teams though that I would think that he would be interested in. And by the way, another team that we talk about? Yeah, we talked a little bit about the Angels. He had turned down a deal to the Angels also, and
Who wouldn't?
maybe
They suck.
Yeah, but
They're
maybe
bad
he
ownership.
would revisit that now.
This is interesting from Joe P. I wonder how much influence Chaim is having with any possible trades. Does the return of the Steven Matz trade make you think we're seeing Chaim affecting this deadline?
It does. Yeah.
It's got to make me
Yeah.
like I can't. At the same time, it's like there's just not a lot of guys at this point in 2025. Like I was going through other organizations like the Rays. Like the Rays don't have anybody still in the minors who Chaim was a part of.
Right.
And it's like there's not a lot of guys in the Sox system that its fingertips are still on. And so the fact that it ended up being one of the guys that they did, and I know the Cardinals did have interest in him in that draft as well. So that also makes me think maybe not a lot, but I'm with Joe P here. It's got me wondering, that's for sure. And honestly, that gives me some positivity, because that's one thing I wanted to see was Bloom clearly having some impact in this deadline.
Well, and I said this yesterday, because he is taking over, whether it's 15 days or 30 days or 2 months or whatever it might be, he's going to be the Pobo. And if I were, and I don't think Chaim Bloom did this or would do this, because he'll take over and be in charge when he takes over, and he's in charge. But if it's going to be his organization next year, why would you not want to allow him to have some impact? And I go back to the old Bill Parcells line. If you're going to make me cook the dinner, then let me buy some of the groceries. I think that he should know about the groceries that he's cooking the dinner with. And he has probably as strong an understanding of minor league baseball now as anybody in this organization, because his job for the last 2 years has been to build the minor league system, watch the Cardinal minor league system. And when you're watching the Cardinal minor league system, what are they doing? They're playing other teams and that have players from other minor league systems. So he should know more, Chaim should, about these players that the Cardinals are considering than anybody else. I would hope that he is consulted a little bit, even if they say, hey, what do you think? And whether it's yes or no, I would hope that they say, hey, what do you think of this guy? Because we know you've seen him.
Jacob Murphin jumping in the chat. We already touched on this, Jacob, but I like that you're pointing out here. Bloom has so many moves to make. Adding Blaze is another 40-man roster spot that is taken. Pretty sure we have a lot of guys Rule 5 eligible. Going to be an interesting offseason. And that's something we touched on right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And Randy pointed out how none of the three in the acquisition from Helsley are going to be Rule 5 eligible. But to your point, Blaze Jordan drafted when he was 18 back in 2020, puts the 5-year clock on, and yes, so Blaze Jordan will have to be protected. But like we said, we went through it. You can find right out the gate, no insult to these players, but you can find 10 to a dozen spots on the 40-man roster that can be opened up to make room for a lot of the young guys they have to keep, like the two catchers and guys like Blaze Jordan.
Yeah, and you'll have to protect Bernal, you'll have to protect Crooks, but like you said, I think it'll be pretty easy. I don't think there's anybody that Cardinal fans will be absolutely devastated if they get taken in the Rule 5 draft. And you know what? A guy like Roby or even Zach Thompson, if somebody is willing to take him and put him on their roster and then put him on the IL for next year, all of next year, that's fine. I think that with 6 years of pro ball and a maximum of 22 appearances in any of those 6 years, I think we kind of know what Tekoa Roby is. So it's, he said he already don't care to protect Roby. So yeah, that's it's not that I don't care.
I think it's more like you're for a guy who's literally not going to pitch for a year.
Yeah,
you can probably expose him to the Rule 5 draft without it being too risky.
Yeah, and if at the age of 27 he comes back from Tommy John and all of a sudden becomes durable, then congratulations to him and the team that took him. But the Cardinals have bigger fish to fry. Now, if they believe that Tekoa Roby is a future number one, and let me go through this again. For Tekoa Roby's entire career as a professional, I will tell you how many games he has appeared in year to year, because this, even if he didn't have the Tommy John, if it was a different injury, I would be concerned. But 21, gets drafted, appears in only 6 games. Okay, but that's his first year. He didn't get drafted until after the All-Star break. Okay. 2022, 14 games. 2023, he is in 2022, he was in 22 games, 21 starts. 23, he was in 14 games. 24, he was in 10 games.
Yeah, we're getting worse.
Yeah. And then in 25 this year, he was in 16. So he's not exactly the Iron Horse. I mean, we're not watching Cy Young or Walter Johnson here. I am of the belief, because of his history and the amount of time he spent on the IL, that's kind of who he is. He's told me who he is. And I wish him all the luck in the world, but I just don't see it happening.
I don't agree with this, but I do like this text from Eric the Red. No, Blaze is all Mozeliak, a pointless hitter that clogs up DH first base.
Hey,
he can also play third base.
Quit picking on Luke and Baker.
Oh, one of the 12, by the way. Sorry.
Chris Horton, is Mo still going to be involved the next year or just gone entirely? He will not be involved in the baseball side of the operation. He won't be like Doug Armstrong is going to be with the Blues as the president of hockey operations, with Steiner being the GM. Chaim Bloom is going to be the president of baseball operations and will run the baseball operation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You mama. I was watching SNY last night, and one of the reporters was saying that trading the SS we got, that's be Baez, and one of the pitchers could hurt in the future, but he was all for getting Helsley. Yeah, I think a lot of people in the media have been praising the move for the Mets. Obviously, you continue to build maybe the greatest 7, 8, 9 we've seen in baseball in the last like 10 years, with what they're adding in the relief pitchers over the last 2 days, and obviously already having Edwin Diaz as the closer. It makes sense from their point, and we already talked about it as well. Baez, killer arm, has power potential. Those are good things to see.
Blues fan 94. I like this text. The organization needs to reset their mindset. Let's accept that in the next 2 to 3 years, we will be developing young players and not focusing on the postseason. Get as much as you can at this deadline, which they're doing. Now, I don't think it's necessarily, 2 to 3 years. I don't think that you're going to have to go down to ground zero. I think ground zero for the Cardinals was this year. But what the Cardinals need to have happen, and they need to get lucky, Matthew, they need to have somebody turn into a legitimate front of the rotation starter, because they aren't buying that. Teams don't trade those guys. They aren't going to get Paul Skeens. They aren't going to get Framber Valdez. They aren't going to sign that guy. So what they need is somebody like Matthews or somebody like Liam Doyle to step up and be a number one quality starter. Now, you have other guys. We mentioned the names of other guys in the system. Even when Sonny Gray is gone in 2027, if you have that number one arrive on the scene, and let's just assume that next year you start Doyle at AA, and then the year after that, 20, and if there is a next year, or no, 27, I guess 26 is when you'd have the problem. But next year you bring him up for the second half of the season because he's a polished young pitcher. So you've got Doyle, Matthews, McGreevy, Palante, Leahy, and then you'll draft more guys next year, and you've got more young pitchers on the way. You just traded for a couple. Maybe you get another guy in a trade today. I think that's the way the Cardinals are going to have to try to win. And I don't think that's a great way to win. I don't know what the future holds if there is no salary cap for the Cardinals in terms of being able to win on a consistent basis like they did between 2000 and 2015, because their revenues are not going to be to a point where they can outbid teams like the Mets or the Yankees or the Dodgers, or even if the Cubs, if they want to, for veteran starting pitching. The Cardinals are going to have to make starting pitching. I think that's something that they, and we talk about changing their mindset, and we need to come to grips with.
And we just talked about it now. How can you get starting pitching? Well, you can move Brendan Donovan, but overall, you can make other moves today that can get you more darts to throw at the board and maybe make a trade down the line. And that's why I just put up a poll here on the show, Randy, on the YouTube chat. Should the Cardinals trade a left-handed hitter today? And I gave people 4 options: Newt, small return; Burleson, average return; Donnie, big return; or Gorman, also an average return.
You just could not put JJ Weatherholt on there, huh?
I refuse. That's not happening. And so right out of the gate, 50% of the votes is trading Newt to get a small return, which I'm kind of surprised by. I'm surprised, knowing that you could get an average return for Gorman or Burleson or a big return for Donnie. I'm surprised we're getting so many people right out of the gate, 50% going get a small return for Newt. I think that says a lot about what people think about the young players on this team, and about, I guess, how willing they are to say we're 2 or 3 years away.
Okay, here's where I would fall on this. Let me work my way up to why I would fall where I was.
All right, tell me.
I would trade if Houston wanted a left-handed hitter today. Here's what I'm thinking: if I'm Bloom, if I'm Mozeliak, if I'm Ollie, or whoever the manager is going to be next year, my left fielder is going to be Ivan Herrera. I think we know that. My center fielder is going to be Victor Scott II. My right fielder is going to be Jordan Walker. My third baseman, if it's not Arenado, is going to be Gorman. My shortstop's going to be Wynn. My second baseman is going to be Donovan. My first baseman is going to be Contreras. My catchers are going to be, let's say, Pajes and Crooks. So I have a DH spot open, and I can move either Gorman or Alec Burleson. I'm going to take the guy that gives me the biggest return. And I think that's going to wind up, well, it might be a coin flip, because teams might still be intrigued by Gorman's ability to hit for power. He did hit a home run last night in a rehab, a home run and a double. And while Alec Burleson is a really good hitter, and I think it'd be great in Houston, the way he hits the ball the other way, he could use those Crawford boxes. But you've got a really good hitter and a really good slugger, and then you're a team that would have to decide. So I would come down on those sides. But if I'm the Cardinals and I don't feel like I have a 30 home run hitter in that group, maybe Herrera will wind up being that guy. I think I'd be inclined to keep Nolan Gorman and trade Alec Burleson.
Okay.
And then Newt Bar's going too.
And how much of the Burleson factor, because you when you laid out that lineup, how much of the Burleson factor is a positional thing?
None.
Okay, interesting. No. It's all just down to the hitting profiles.
Yes.
That's okay. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah. Because I think Herrera as a right-handed hitter is a better hitter.
Yeah.
Walker has the ability, and I like balance. And Weatherholt at some point soon is going to be here, and he's going to be a left-handed hitter that plays a lot. So he's going to be here, and he's kind of your nominal replacement for Alec Burleson. And then it's you're kind of stuck with Arenado at third, or you can play Weatherholt there, or you could move Gorman there. And then obviously Wynn, and your defense up the middle is going to be Pajes, Wynn, Donovan, Scott. And then, Wilson Contreras is going to be here.
BC Boy 1974 was saying sell anything with value. Dalton Ferris says trade them all.
Trade them all. I like it.
We like to manage expectations here. We like to have conversations about what probably will happen, not always about what we want to happen. And so I think it's realistic that one of those 4 could be traded for the return I put in parentheses. But here's the thing that's interesting to me, and maybe we can get into this with the chat. So far, Burleson has the smallest amount of votes on our poll.
Interesting.
Should the Cardinals trade a left-handed hitter?
Yep.
Burleson
He's a swell guy.
getting an
Great
average return for Burleson is only getting 8% of the vote right now. That's compared to 47% on Newt, 26% on Donnie, and 18% on Gorman. People not down for trading Burleson, and I wonder how much of that is about the average fan really being sick of watching strikeouts and just loving the idea of a guy who's just gonna hit 290 a lot.
Yeah. Well, and there is something to be said for that. So Bill Doughton, you asked for my lineup. I've got Victor Scott II as my leadoff guy. Then I think I'm going to hit Herrera second. And then I think I'm going to hit Donovan third. And then because I've got him, I'm going to hit Contreras fourth. But I'm not totally married to that idea. And then I believe that I'm going to probably hit Gorman 5. He gives me a little bit of protection for Contreras.
Okay. He has 2 Herrera, Donnie, Contreras, Gorman.
Yep. And then
6 got to be Walker, right?
Walker or Wynn. Yeah, probably Walker to start the season, and then we'll see what happens.
7 is
7 is
Wynn.
Yeah, probably Wynn. Well,
who's playing left field?
Herrera.
Oh, Herrera's in left field. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. So Scott, Herrera, Donovan. This is going to be a fun lineup to put together. Contreras, Gorman, Walker, and so I'm going to have Gorman as my DH. I'm going to plug him in as my DH. So I have to have Arenado too, right? I'm stuck with him.
All right. So Arenado's batting 8th. Pies is batting 9th.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right. I'm going to put this on the page. I'm going to put this up on the screen and see what people think about it. All right.
And you know what? And then don't forget, you're going to have JJ Weatherholt bouncing around in that lineup too.
It's not like it's still, man. Arenado being in there just really throws everything. It throws everything off for another year.
So yeah. So the hope would be that you could move him or bench him.
I like you saying, I can't see them actually benching him. It needs to be moved to a platoon next year, but a full on bench and then just saying we're going to pay a guy that much money just not to play at all. I don't see it happening for a bunch of different factors.
See, but then how different would it be if rather than how different does it look if what we think is going to happen, not what we know because he is a prospect, but if you could plug Weatherholt in between Wynn and Baez?
Yeah.
Looks a lot different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks, you plug Weatherholt in between Wynn and Pages.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah, if you put Weatherholt in there, I mean, heck, I would actually shift things around at that point, because to your point, I would almost do something where if I get Weatherholt into this lineup, I'm putting Weatherholt at 6.
Okay.
Walker at 7, Pages at 8.
You should probably move Gorman down then.
Okay, yeah.
Because you want to have
we'll put Weatherholt at 5.
Okay.
Gorman at 6, Walker at 7, Pages at 8, and then I'm putting Wynn at 9. That way, everything you talk about, I no longer have a slow guy stopping Victor Scott II from stealing and moving things around when we come back around to my leadoff spot.
Okay.
That's what I would be doing if they had JJ Weatherholt. And it really does. JJ Weatherholt in for Nolan Arenado just completely opens up the lineup.
It lengthens the lineup significantly. So there you have our can you give that lineup? What do you have it?
I got it up on the screen right now.
Okay, good. There it is. So,
I wish it fit all on one line. That really bothers me.
Yeah. So Scott, Herrera, Donovan, Contreras, Gorman, Walker, Wynn, and then we put Weatherholt up though.
So, so you want me to put it up there with the Weatherholt shift?
Yeah.
I'll
you've got Weatherholt, Walker, Gorman.
Are you okay with my Pages at 8, Wynn at 9 idea?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, we'll move that.
You got to have a second leadoff hitter, don't you, Tony?
I love the idea of the second leadoff hitter. Maybe that's because I grew up with Tony as the manager of the team. But I love that idea. Okay.
Samuel Howe, Randy, I'm disappointed you don't give Pozo the start. I like Pozo a lot. He's your best pinch hitter, by the way. He's a great pinch hitter. But I don't think anybody sees him, even in Major League Baseball, as an everyday catcher. I think if he were out on the market right now, people would look at him as a backup.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
Now I got it up there.
Herrera, Donovan, Contreras, Weatherholt, Gorman, Walker, Pages. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
How can you not? I mean, that's a lineup going into 2026.
Yep.
I'm happy with. Don't make me talk about the starting pitching staff at all going into 2026. But that lineup in 2026, that I can roll with for 142 games.
Yep. People are tired of Pedro Pages and his beat defense and ability to call games. I don't think the Cardinals are tired of that, though. So the reason that we don't say enough of Pages is because they really like him from top to bottom in the organization. They have a ton of respect for his ability to manage games and to take care of pitchers and make pitchers better.
I'm surprised by this. We're getting a lot of Weatherholt needs to be the leadoff hitter. Rod Rogers, Jeff Miller, Bill Downton. Everybody wants Weatherholt as the leadoff guy.
Well, number one, let's see what he does at the major league level before I don't know if he's going to be Vince Coleman quite yet, but the reason that you're giving people runway, and I know that Victor Scott II has had a horrible run here in July. The whole team has had a horrible run in July. But the one guy in this organization that's capable of manufacturing runs from the leadoff spot for you is Victor Scott II. So I like him up there. I want J.J. Weatherholt to get an opportunity, and he will probably wind up being a great player. But I want to have him be allowed to ease in and not be pressured with being the linchpin of the offense the first day he gets here.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of expectations. Joe P saying it's the Schwarber effect. I mean, if you want to do that, then I think that
Gorman.
Or I was just going to say, I really think if we're talking about like the best spot in the future, I think that 3 or 4 years in the future, the best build would be Weatherholt 2, Herrera 3. And then whatever right-handed power bat. Oh, no. I guess actually because of the left, it might make sense to go Herrera 2, JJ 3, and then a right-handed power bat at 4. In the like the future build of the team, adding another right-handed power bat, that's probably the best, like the optimal future of the Cardinals would be
optimal.
Avon 2, JJ 3, right-handed power at 4.
I think the numbers nerds would like to have Herrera hitting first.
Ooh. Now Herrera first, JJ 2, power hitting righty at 3. I also like that. I'm okay with moving it up one spot. I really like that. Herrera at first is interesting.
He's your best on base guy this year.
And then winning VS2 at 8 and 9.
Yep. But here's the reason. I'm kind of old school. I like the idea of setting the table and clearing the table. And I think while Ivan Herrera could be a table setter, he could get on base for you a lot. I like the idea of him clearing the table as the number 3 or 4 hitter more than I like the idea of him being the guy who sets the table and somebody else trying to drive him in.
Real American Intelligence. Donovan should bat second with Herrera batting third. I'm good with that. I completely forgot to add Donovan in that top 3 chat as well. We're getting a lot of people asking about positioning. Like, listen, of course, winning in Weatherholt can play second base. You can play shortstop. You can play anywhere else other than catcher. And heck, if you're Win, you can probably play pitcher. So let's just, we talked about this yesterday. Or B-Shape and Roderick on the instant reaction to the Helsley trade because of the Baez move. Everyone's like, oh my God, another shortstop. It's kind of like in football, if I'll do a cross-sport reference here, if your team just keeps drafting college left tackles, you're not complaining that they're not drafting guards and centers. You're pretty happy that they keep drafting the best offensive linemen from the respective college team. Just keep signing shortstops and teaching them how to play other positions. I don't think that's a bad way to go about things. They'll figure it out. Those guys know what they're doing. They got the range. They got the arm. They got the pick. They got the pick standard kind of thing going. I mean, they know what to do with a glove. What's the issue with having a lot of shortstops and saying we will divvy them out to positions as we so see fit?
If you go to MLB Pipeline and the top 100 prospects, 17 of the top 45 are shortstops. I can pretty much guarantee you that not all 17 of those prospects are going to wind up playing shortstop. I mean, look at Marcelo Mayor. He's for Boston. He was a top 10 pick in the draft, and Mayor got called up this year, and he's playing third base. There's Robin Yount wound up playing in center field. Alex Rodriguez wound up playing third base. Albert Pujols drafted as a shortstop, didn't wind up playing shortstop. Very rarely does an entire group of shortstops stay there. when you're in high school, when you're in college, normally the shortstop is the best athlete on the field, and you can move him pretty much anywhere. Ernie Banks wound up playing first base. He was a really good shortstop, wound up playing first base. So you can move guys, and they'll survive.
This is the mindset of the Donnie stuff that I still don't. I just don't jive with. Joe, trade Donnie. We are seeing his ceiling. Good role player, not a franchise guy. So I'll just hit this. The three things you said about him. I don't necessarily agree with the premise that we're seeing his ceiling. He's been a very consistent, a 117 OPS plus guy these first 4 years of his career. But he's 28, and he opened up the first 3 months of the season hitting 300. Like, this is his physical prime. He's not exiting his physical prime. So saying a guy entering his prime and literally entering not just his physical prime at the age, but entering his 5th year in Major League Baseball next year and saying this is his ceiling, we don't know that for sure. I'm not willing to accept that right off the bat. Good role player, not a franchise guy.
He's nobody ever said he was a franchise guy. You aren't going to have 9 franchise guys.
And here's the thing:
you're the Dodgers.
In the entire point of the trade Donovan conversation is, yes, trade him if the value you're getting in return is like the other teams trading because they think Donnie's a franchise guy. But here's the thing: if you think he's just a good role player, why do you think X Major League Baseball team is going to trade with the Cardinals like he's the franchise guy that you don't believe he is? And that's so that, like, you want to trade him, but I guarantee you, if they trade him, the result probably is going to the return probably going to piss you off for the one All-Star they had this year.
And he's been really consistent, Matthew. We look at his career: batting average 281, 284, 278, 285, on base 394, 365, 342, 358, slug 379, not as high as rookie year, but then 422, 417, 416, OPS is 773, 787, 759, 774. You know what you're going to get out of him. Is he going to be Mookie Betts? Is he going to be Shohei Ohtani? No, he's not. And nobody is suggesting that he's going to be a franchise player. But can he be a really good, important player on a winning team? Absolutely, he can. And let's just take a look. A career OPS of 117, OPS plus of 117, and a career OPS of 772. Let's just rip from the headlines right here in St. Louis. Tommy Herr had a great career with the Cardinals. His career OPS was 704. His career OPS plus, and he was a good player, was 96. He was below average, but he played in 3 World Series. He was a guy who drove in 110 runs one year. He was a glue guy for his team. He was a really important part of a team that was good for an entire decade. He wasn't the centerpiece. You had Ozzie Smith, you had Jack Clark, you had Vince Coleman, but you need guys like Tom Herr or Brendan Donovan on good teams. And that's what we're talking about. We aren't talking about having a guy that's going to win MVPs. Not everybody can win MVPs, but the kind of guys that you need to win with. And that's what Donovan is.
I really love this. Cole Bass's left foot's always throwing out these little analogies. I'm not sure what exactly they are. Are they similes or are they metaphors? I'm not sure. Trading Donovan would be like selling your Swiss Army knife because you found a slightly shinier spoon. Congrats. Now you can't open anything. That is such a perfect description from Cole Bassett's left foot of exactly what Donnie would probably give you. Like, yeah, if you can get a much nicer Swiss Army knife, probably, but why would a team be giving you that for your Swiss Army knife? That's the issue.
Paralysis by analysis. You trade Donovan because he's your best asset on a bad team. He can get you prospects. He can prospects that can offer much higher upside. He's the next Matt Carpenter, who, by the way, finished top 9 in the MVP a couple of times. Good player, but not good enough to move needles. I would argue that on a World Series team in 2013, Matt Carpenter moved some needles. And I would also say that you know what you have. I just ran down. You know what you're going to get every single year from Matt Carpenter. Why would you trade a guy Matt Carpenter, Brendan Donovan? Why, Irish guys? Why would you trade a guy that you know what he's going to give you every year for people that you don't know anything about? That's what I'm having trouble understanding. Why do you want to trade an is for some might be's?
When Matt Carpenter was entering his 5th Major League Baseball season in 2015 as a 29-year-old, which is essentially what Brendan Donovan's doing. Mm-hmm. He was coming off his 2nd straight All-Star season. The next 4 years of Matt Carpenter's career, he gave the Cardinals a 260 average with a 376 OBP, a 497 slug, and an 873 OPS. Good for a 134 OPS plus, 34% better than the average MLB hitter. He hit 108 home runs with 302 RBI in that time. Those were the next 4 years of Matt Carpenter from 29 through 32. That is undoubtedly better than his first few years as a power hitter. Even as he struck out more. He didn't hit for the exact average, but he was a more valuable hitter, 134 OPS plus across those next 4 years than he was his first couple of years when he was right at like a 127, 128. Not much better, but like he got better in his physical prime of 29 to 32 because that's usually what happens.
This from you, Mama, and we do appreciate all of your being a part of the chat today. You guys are rocking and rolling. If you have a team full of question marks, having a guy that can play every position is pretty valuable. Yo Mama, I agree. You Mama. And Eric Cleveland. Randy, you're correct. Donnie is the glue guy to help teams win. Problem now is how far is this team from winning? And I think offensively, what you're doing this year is trying to prepare for what you hope you know next year. And that's one of the things the Cardinals are trying to do is eliminate question marks. They've done that with Brendan Donovan. I think they've done that with Mason Wynn. I think they've done that with Contreras. For better or worse, I think they've done that with Pies. The offense is not going to be great, but he's going to be a terrific catcher. Still questions about all the outfield situations, right? Questions about Walker. I feel good about Herrera, by the way, who's had a rough stretch here, but I feel good about him. And then Victor Scott the second. The biggest issue with the Cardinals for me and what's going to get them closer is what we talked about a few minutes ago with starting pitching. I think they'll be able to assemble a bullpen, but what you need to have is a pitcher that can go head to head with Imanaga on a day where you're facing the Dodgers, a guy that can go head to head when he's healthy with Snell. You need to have that number one guy that can hold the opposition down for 6 or 7 innings and keep them down to 2 runs, like Miles Michaelis did last night. But he's not the guy. But you need a guy that Chris Ranji always called it win day. A guy that when that his time in the rotation pops up, you say, okay, we're going to win that game. And he doesn't win all the time, but you have that confidence that he's going to win, that you're going to win the game that he starts. I don't think the Cardinals have that guy in their rotation right now, and they need to develop that guy.
Yeah, that's a big thing, and they've put themselves in a better position for it. You know, could Libby develop into that guy? Can Liam Doyle be that guy? We won't know, but and to your point, they have a lineup, and they have a really good gaggle of relief pitchers. They do got to figure out the starting pitching, and I think there's a lot of people saying that one of the reasons you trade Donnie is that they're not going to compete in the next 4 years, and I just don't. Yes. I wouldn't agree with that one. Somebody's saying he's going to be a UFA in 2028. I think there's a very good chance. And then listen, if they don't sign Brendan Donovan to an extension this offseason and they go to arbitration again with him, then I will be maybe at the forefront of trading him at the deadline next year, because that would be 2 years of going to arbitration with him. He'd be going into his 3rd year. Then he'd be risking about losing him. Mm-hmm. You know, God only knows how he's hitting then. So I'd be a big proponent of trading him if they don't get the extension this year. But if they get the extension this year, and I'm a big proponent of them getting that done, I think it makes sense to say he is the veteran that's leading our next winning window. If that window is supposed to start, let's call it post-lockout in 2028, then having Brendan Donovan as the 30-year-old key, as the main veteran, as guys like Wilson Contreras and Arenado are aging out, that makes sense in the team build still. I understand you're saying that, compared to Doug Armstrong, he wants players who are going to be in their prime for that, for their next window. I think that Brendan Donovan, 30 to 31, 32 age seasons, when he's still in his prime, is still in the window the Cardinals are building for. You might not agree with it, but I think that's what the Cardinals are doing, and you just kind of have to accept the reality sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that we just have a misconception now, because it used to be that to keep their jobs, general managers would say, yeah, we've got a 5-year rebuild here. It doesn't take 5 years to rebuild a team anymore. You can do it in 2. It happens in a hurry. The Detroit Tigers in 2022 won 66 games. Then they won 78. Then they won 86 and made the playoffs last year. And this year they're 64-46, and they're leading the division. We've talked about the Diamondbacks before, how the Diamondbacks have they won 52 games 2 years before they were in the World Series a couple of years ago. And now they've gone backwards. You don't want to do that. But the Diamondbacks went from 52 games to 74 wins to 84 wins and the World Series.
And now they're selling at the deadline.
Right. You don't have to be bad for a really long time to build a system and turn good anymore.
And I think if you ask the DeWitts to be completely honest, they would tell you that selling off twice in a 3-year window is pretty much the extent they're willing to be bad.
Yeah. Well, you look at the crowds at the ballpark, and we've all seen them on TV, right? Or we've been there. How many of those people you think are filling up Ballpark Village? That's not happening.
Nope.
And when you say, well, the Cardinals are making all this money off of Ballpark Village, who's going? If nobody's going to baseball games, who's going to Ballpark Village? I haven't been there lately, but I'm assuming that it doesn't have the kind of traffic it does when the Cardinals are drawing 35 or 40,000 a night.
Rip it up cards. Haven't the Cardinals said they aren't spending money this offseason? They've never made a direct statement like that. They never will. Why would you think they would get a contract extension done this offseason for Donnie? Well, because a lot of money is coming off the books. They don't have to pay certain guys $18 million anymore.
Yep,
and there's $60 million.
Is 16. Matz is 11. Helsley was 8. Maton is 2. And I think there's more money coming off the books. But next year, Gray does go way up.
He goes up.
Right? He goes up.
But I think that the extension makes sense for Brendan Donovan because of the player he is and the fact that I still think they can get a very equitable deal for both sides where you're buying term from him. He's getting a larger amount of money right off the bat that will then be guaranteed than he probably expected. You give him 5 for 60, and I don't know why anyone would balk at that. That's a good chunk of money for him right off the bat. The Cardinals have to buy a couple of years. They're looking at maybe that 6th year when he's 33 being a bad season, but that's you can bite the bullet on that. I'm not sure. I don't know who says no to that deal first. And again, with all the money coming off the books, even with the Gray bump up, that's a deal I think makes long-term sense for the organization.
Yeah, and thank you, Mama. I forgot about Fetty and his $7.5 million. So
oh my God, Fetty, yeah.
Forgettable.
We also got a comment earlier from Eric Letford, and we talked about it earlier, but I wanted to dive into it because Eric said, I heard NATO was mad the Cardinals traded Helsley. Be nice if they would agree to a trade instead of holding the franchise hostage. I think sad would be a better way to determine it. Go to MLB.com and read John Denton's piece. He had a couple quotes from Arenado, but he also just talked about the tone that was coming from Arenado. He talked about how they became really close friends over the last few years. And how he one of his best friends just got traded out from his work environment. None of us like that, and so I think it's clear that he's bummed out. And to Randy's point, I think it also might have shook him into the system, and it kind of that I only want to win mindset kind of got rattled in his brain again, where he's like, I'm really not going to win here, and I don't have much time left, and I wonder if that kind of shocked the system a little.
Well, and he loses Goldschmidt last year, right, his best buddy.
Yeah.
And then Helsley's his buddy. So sometimes you'll look around and you say, man, I don't have any friends left in here. And that affects how you feel about being at a place too. And I wonder if the Cardinals, because they were going to get together and find out whether or not Arenado would even consider the idea of being traded like they did with Contreras. And he said, nope, I'm here. But I know that they wanted to find out from Arenado whether he would consider it. The Mark Feinstein reporting both the Astros and the Astros are in the mix for 2 pitchers for Dylan Cease and Sandy Alcantara.
Oh, damn.
So, but maybe they'll have something left over to help.
Someone trade for our closer or our relief pitching. So,
yep. And if the Padres, who just moments ago made their deal for Mason Miller, according to John Heyman, if they can't get Stephen Kwan from the Guardians, they'll look at Laureano and Luis Robert Jr. to fill the outfield need. The Mets are also interested in Luis Robert Jr., and they're also interested in Orioles outfielder Cedric Mullins. And let's see what else we got. It's trade deadline coming up at 5:00 this afternoon, which is about 6 hours from right now. And we're going to have a trade deadline special right here on STL Sports Central, right?
Yes.
STL.
Joe Roderick's going to be ready right out of the gate, right around 3:30, 3:45. He's going to be just waiting to see if any deals kind of materialize. And then as soon as things start happening in those last hour or so, Joe Roderick's going to go live and they'll be covering the final hour of the trade deadline live right here on STL Sports Central. And honestly, if they don't get the Maton deal done in the next 30 minutes while we're on the air, I hope it doesn't happen until about 4:27, right in the meat of that show with Joe Roddick. That'll be a lot of fun.
This note, by the way, from Adam Schefter. How about this? The United Football League announced today that entrepreneur and billion-dollar brand builder Mike Repole will be joining the league's ownership group. A billionaire interested in spending money in the UFL. To me, that's interesting. Repole will now become part of a coalition that includes Redbird Capital Partners, and that's how the president of the league, our buddy who was on the show, former GM of the Bills.
Why am I blanking on his name so badly?
We'll think of it.
Russ Brandon?
Russ Brandon, there you go. So Fox is involved, ESPN, Danny Garcia, and The Rocc, although you wouldn't know if you were in St. Louis that The Rocc is part of the ownership group. But now they have another member, another billionaire in the UFL ownership group. So I wanted you to know that. And we are going to keep going. We want you to know also that today is kind of a slow day on the sports world. There are only 3 MLB games.
What?
There's only 1 WNBA game, and that's because tonight the NFL season starts. And nobody wants to compete with the NFL, even when it's the Hall of Fame game between the Chargers and the Lions.
That's insane.
It's just a juggernaut. It's a powerhouse. It's unstoppable. And they've got it on DraftKings Pick 6, where the crown is yours. And so what we want you to do is check out DraftKings Pick 6. Download the app. Use that code right there, STL Sports, and you can get $25 when you spend your first $5. And you can go with something like, I'm going to go under on Trey Lance, 116.5 passing yards. Trey Lance is the backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers now. And I'm going to go with him to get less than 116.5 passing yards. And then I think I'm going to go with, there's so many opportunities here. There are. How about Omarion Hampton, the first round draft choice of the Chargers? The over under on him is 17.5 rushing yards. I'm going to say that he gets more than 17.5.
I tell you what, I have an Omarion Hampton future for Rookie of the Year this year. Oh my God, I like him.
Okay, so there you have it. So easy and so much fun to play DraftKings Pick 6. It does change the way you watch sports, and it'll definitely change the way you watch football with the football season coming up. So here's a couple of things we need you to know. It changes. It makes it a summer day or a summer night of watching sports so much more fun. And you can, like we said, get that money back. Spend $5, get $25 when you take advantage of the great offer from DraftKings Pick 6. Download the app today and use that promo code STL Sports.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Okay, we're expecting Phil Maton to be moved today. He's stayed back in St. Louis. He didn't even accompany the team to San Diego. So my guess is that Maton will be moved. The Toronto Blue Jays have already acquired Shane Bieber this morning, so they're looking for bullpen help. Apparently, they were one of the teams the Cardinals were talking to. The Dodgers apparently will have interest because the Dodgers have thrown more bullpen innings by a wide margin than any other team in Major League Baseball. And we talked earlier about the Dodgers looking for a closer, which they are, but man, they just need somebody to give them innings out of the bullpen because Dave Roberts and Mark Pryor have gassed the rest of their bullpen.
We got you guys. Come on.
We got a guy.
Come on. What do you want to, let's have a quick conversation. We got a guy. He's cheap. You can divert his entire contract across like 10 years and pay him like $1 million a year. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
And here's another one from you. And this comes from, Daniel Kaplan is obviously in Chicago, and the host for Chicago's ESPN 1000, Carmen DeFalco, tweets that ear to the ground, Cubs fans, Mackenzie Gore is not just a pipe dream. Sources, he's in play and gaining momentum with the Cubs. Carmen DeFalco tweets, we'll see what happens. So maybe Mackenzie Gore winds up in Chicago, which would be really bad news for the Cardinals. And if, by the way, if the Mackenzie Gore gets traded, shame on the Cardinals for not being involved in that. If he gets traded, and I don't know if the Cardinals are, but if he gets traded, the Cardinals should be in on him, right?
They're not going to trade him.
You wouldn't think so, but they've done stupid things in the past.
He doesn't hit free agency until 2028.
I know.
He doesn't even hit arbitration until next year.
That's why the Cardinals,
this would be insane.
If he's in play, the Cardinals should be interested in him. And heck,
he does wear number 1 though.
Mm-hmm. That's a problem. We can pick that here. He ain't getting number 1 here. I'll tell you that.
That's true. Yeah. You know what? It's built in. It kind of solves the one issue.
Yeah. So
that would be insane. The Cubs what is the Cubs prospects? Are they have they been able to rebuild that minor league system already? I mean, you need multiple. You need top 100 prospects.
John Heyman
Mackenzie Gore.
Nothing close yet on Gore to the Cubs.
So,
but that's a guy that I think the Cardinals would do well to if they want to make a deal that pains them. Then I think that'd be a good one.
So the Cubs have the number 36 overall prospect in Owen Casey or Cassie. I don't know how to pronounce it. Casey. He's an outfielder who's projected to hit this year or next year. He's a 23-year-old, so he's a pretty major league level player right now. Moises Ballesteros is the number 47th ranked prospect in Major League Baseball. He's a catcher and a first baseman who's MLB level ready at 28 years or at 21 years old. And they also have number 57, Jefferson Rojas. I mean, the Cubs got 3. Is there a 4th one in here? They have 3 top 60 prospects in all of Major League Baseball. So they have the heft to go do that. The Cardinals catcher duo of Bernal and Rodriguez sit at 78 and 88 in the top 100 right now. I'm just saying.
If you could do it, if you could get Mackenzie Gore, and the number 1, obviously Washington is going to want a young pitcher back. I don't know who they would want back, but whoever they would want.
You guys aren't trying to compete till 2027, right? Tekoa Roby's he's going to be ripping, rearing, ready to go, guys. Don't worry.
But so they've got Keibert Ruiz, so they don't need a catcher. The Cardinals, as you mentioned, have those 2 catchers, but they've got a catcher.
Give him Quinn Matthews. Give him Quinn Matthews.
Okay. He's had a rough year. Nathaniel Lowe is their first baseman. The Cardinals could do a Burleson there. They got Brady House at 3rd. He's not doing a lot. They don't need a shortstop there. Wood's going to be there in their left. So I think there's places where the Cardinals would match up. I would be intrigued, and I think not that they'll do it because I don't think they will. And I can't believe Washington's interim general manager, by the way,
that's insane,
talking about this. But there's a lot of people.
An all-star pitcher with 4 years of control.
Yeah, I don't think that's the move that you make. But my point is this: if he does get moved, or if we find out, this was he was definitely in play, then shame on the Cardinals if they aren't involved, because that's exactly what they're looking for.
In fairness,
that's the kind of thing you overpay for because it's really hard to develop.
And you know what? I like Jacob Murphy not pouncing on this in the moment, but looking at this in the long scope. This is why you trade expiring assets. You build up the pipeline so you're able to afford guys like Gore, Crochet, and Cease when they're available. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Right. I have a feeling Kevin Duncan's right here. The problem is if you're Washington, you're not dumb enough that if the Cardinals call you, you're not getting into the conversation. Like you literally, this is John Mozeliak, JJ Weatherholt. No. Okay, then don't call me again. Like that's I know who you are. I know who you have. That's the one guy I want. Don't call me again if you're not willing to call JJ Weatherholt. It wouldn't shock me. It would actually be the one smart thing that Washington would do there. But the problem is, if this is true, I now have to assume that they're not that smart.
I would say that is a safe assumption. Let's see. I'm looking at the latest from Derek Gould and Phil Maton, as we mentioned, still here. Cardinals believe they'll be able to trade him ahead of the deadline. That's why he's there. Toronto, Derek says, among the teams interested. The Athletic reported this morning that the Rangers are pursuing Maton now too. And the Padres were also among other teams that contacted the Cardinals about relievers. Of course, the Padres getting Mason Miller this morning. And according to Derek Gould, the conversations the Cardinals have been having are not limited to the veteran relievers on expiring contracts. In the past few days, Cardinals had at least one team contact them to explore what a trade for outfielder Lars Nootbaar would look like if there's a match. And the Cardinals, according to a source, recently told teams that they would be open to discussions about Nolan Gorman and what the Cardinals would seek in return there. Multiple teams have contacted the Cardinals with interest in Brendan Donovan, per sources, but how strong the Cardinals' appetite for such a trade is not clear. So there's the latest from Derek Gould.
I'm going to end our poll, by the way. We got almost 300 votes in the poll today. Should the Cardinals trade a left-handed hitter today? Newt for a small return, Burleson, average return, Gorman, average return, or Donnie, big return. The winner of the poll, it never changed after it got started. Lars Nootbaar takes 50% of the almost 300 votes in which left-handed hitter the Cardinals should trade today. Burleson actually finishing with the smallest with 7%, Gorman with 16%, Donnie getting a big return back got 26% of the vote, but Newt get with a small return got half of the vote. People really just want to ship him out and get whatever they can. In this chat, the people in this chat really just want to ship Newt out and get whatever they can.
Cole Bassett's left foot. Most deadline moves feel suspiciously like someone is trying to impress his next employer. Rockies fans, check your inbox.
Stop it, Cole. You're throwing gas this entire show, and I appreciate it. Stop it.
No, you know what? And I don't know if Mo wants to sit out a year, but I think that'd be a really smart move on their part to bring him in to oversee the rebuild of that organization, because they got problems. And he was there at the outset when they first won. He knows what kind of players it takes to win in Colorado, and apparently the people that are in charge now don't know.
Victor Conlin on the Facebook chat comes in. Randy, why do most teams and Cards wait until trade deadline to make trades? If the Cards had traded for pitching in May, they could have improved the team in time that they wouldn't be here today.
Well, it's a weird thing, but nobody does make trades in May or April.
Has that been exacerbated even more so since the expansion of the playoffs?
Yes.
And go back to the wild card even being created back in the 90s.
Yeah, because teams either think they're in it and they don't want to trade away a part that they think that they'll need to win, or teams that aren't in it, that are bad, have a few assets and they'll say, you know what, I'm going to wait until there's, rather than 2 teams, there's 6 teams that are going to be in a bidding war for my piece of property.
And because the expanded playoffs now, there are, instead of 3 teams being in that bidding war, you say, I'm not going to trade in May when there's only 3 teams in my bidding war. If I wait until June or late July and things coalesce and a team goes on a 12-game winning streak, and now all of a sudden there's 6 teams who think they have a shot at the playoffs. Now everybody's in my bidding war. And so, I think it's gotten worse over the years. And I just think it all comes down to leverage. You don't have leverage in May that you have in July, or let's actually couch that correctly. In almost every case, you aren't going to have as much leverage in May as you will have in July. There will be rare cases where you still have a lot of leverage in May, but it's almost always going to get better once things get closer. Deadlines make deals. It's bottom line.
Jay Renegade points out Devers got traded in June. And what did you see that next morning, that Monday morning after that trade? The word that everybody used was stunning.
Yep.
Right? Because trades just don't happen in June. And it used to be back in my day, Uncle Randy, the trade deadline was on June 15th. That's when Rick Sutcliffe got traded on June 15th. The Cardinals made the Keith Hernandez trade in 1983 on June 15th. So it used to be, and then they moved it to July, and then now we've got only July. We used to be able to have a trade deadline on July 31st, and then we had the non-waiver trade deadline I guess it was it was July 31st. And then you had one, though, on August 31st, the player had to be in the town of the team so that he could play in the playoffs for them.
The non-waiver deadline in mid-August was always great. That always ended up being a fun little amuse-bouche at the end of things.
I think that's how we got Larry Walker into St. Louis.
I think so.
Right.
Victor has another question. Randy, back in the day, most trades were an MLB player for an MLB player. What do they call that? Baseball trade.
Baseball trade.
Why don't those trades happen anymore?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, finances weren't as disparate as they are now. They weren't as big of a deal. Now, the Sutcliffe trade that I just mentioned, the then Indians, now Guardians, got a couple of really good young players in return that weren't expensive for Rick Sutcliffe, but they were building with youth. So the Cleveland franchise got Mel Hall and Joe Carter in that trade for Sutcliffe. But you're right, there were more of those trades in the past, but it seems like there's always been prospects. When Frank Viola got traded from the Twins to the Mets, it was for like David West and Kevin Tapani and a couple of other young players, really young players. When the Cardinals traded Hernandez, Neil Allen was a relatively young player. Keith was an established veteran. Rick Ownby was not a big name. I think the teams now, it's more about finance, but teams have always wanted to have young players that they had more control of. And obviously everything changed after 1976 when free agency came into play, because you could lose a player for nothing. And so Lou Brock for Ernie Broglio, baseball trade, but neither of those players were going anywhere when they got traded. Torrey for Cepeda. Neither of those players was going to be able to utilize free agency. The advent of free agency is really what changed the deadline and allowed teams to move a guy that they might lose for a group of players or a young player that they thought that they could build around.
Two things. One, Martin Kilcoyne tweeted out a hilarious quote from Joe Torre when he was in town yesterday. He just goes, "They traded me as a player, they fired me as a manager, but they just keep inviting me back." It's just such a beautiful sentiment from Joe Torre. And really quickly, Sean from St. Louisville, because we like to correct the record here. I cannot wait to see St. Louis after Bloom fumbles again like he did with Mookie Betts. Well, the interesting thing there is, and maybe this is interesting to St. Louis fans, because much like with Bloom and Boston, look towards the ownership. If you want to criticize and you want to talk about that moment in time, look towards the ownership, because Bloom did not want to trade Mookie Betts.
And I think that Chaim Bloom will say, yeah, didn't get what I wanted for Mookie Betts. And I don't think he'll blame the ownership in Boston, but Matthew's exactly right. Ownership, because of the luxury tax, was essentially going to have to pay $60 million for Mookie Betts, and they didn't stomach that. And the first thing they said to Chaim Bloom when he got there was, yeah, you got to trade Mookie. Sorry, buddy. So he does get moved for Alex Verdugo, and it was Mookie and Price for Verdugo and somebody else. But I think originally Brewster Gratterall was supposed to be in that trade, but failed a physical. I think there might have been another pitcher in there. But anyway, the Boston Red Sox did not do well, and Chaim didn't get the best return there. But there was really only one place to trade Mookie Betts when they traded that player, and that was not the fault of Chaim Bloom. Let's also point out,
well, he probably shouldn't have traded for a guy whose first name was Jeter as a Boston Red Sox. That was a bad mistake. Yeah, Jeter Downs was a bad mistake.
That did not go well. Now, another thing though that happened is, if you look at the Red Sox really good young players now, they were all, not all, but many of them were acquired while Chaim Bloom was the president of baseball operations. They brought up, we mentioned earlier in the show, Marcelo Mayer. He was drafted under the leadership of Chaim Bloom. Their first baseman this year, Abraham Toro, has a 719 OPS. He was acquired under the Bloom leadership. Christian Campbell, their second baseman, drafted under the Bloom ownership. And by the way, he's not performed well lately, but they thought enough of him, this ownership and leadership group, that they gave him a huge contract at the beginning of this year. We won't even mention that he was there when they signed Trevor Story. But Wilyer Abreu acquired while Bloom was in charge there. And Roman Anthony, who was the number one prospect in the game earlier this year, drafted by Chaim Bloom. So they acquired a lot of good young players under the Bloom leadership there. They just didn't have enough patience to see this through with him. And I think the Cardinals will wind up benefiting from the Red Sox firing him, because with Tampa and with Boston, I think he showed that there are very few that are as good at identifying young talent as he is.
Absolutely. Ryan Slower pointed out exactly what you were saying. Bloom moved to the Boston farm system from the cellar to the top farm system.
Yeah. He knows how to identify talent
and also slash the living daylights out of the payroll while doing it.
Yeah.
Like that was the other thing, is like they went from being like, essentially, I mean, they were like a light they were like, I don't know how you want to call it, Boston West or Dodger West or Dodger East almost. Like they were spending money like insane.
Oh, well, when they fired Dombrowski,
yeah.
Dombrowski doesn't care about money, and he doesn't care about the minor league system. And you know what? As a fan, you love that. That's what Philadelphia has going right now. But when he's gone, they won't have a minor league system. And one of the things also that Heimblum did there, and it worked out until it didn't, but he signed Devers to the big contract too. And Devers was raking until they let him go. Even when they let him go this season, he was hitting pretty well for Boston. Has not done as well for San Francisco.
We also got a chat earlier that I wanted to, when we're talking about managing expectations. Somebody said, the last thing I want to see this team do is ever dive back into the KBO to get pitching replacements. And I was like, listen, I see where you're coming from because of Fedde and Michaelis, but at the same time, I do have to say, probably not a ridiculous avenue to maybe get one of the starters they are going to need to get for 2026 because they're going to need to get bodies. So I understand why you might not like the idea of it, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's one of the deals they end up making this offseason as a KBO starting pitcher.
Yeah, well, they might have to. They're going to need starting pitching.
Yes, they will.
No doubt about it. And you know what we have to do is, and I know that the Korean players come to town and they like the Korean food. We've got a lot of great Korean joints, but they got to get to the Fenton Bar and Grill. And all the players that are here in St. Louis for the first time need to try the greatest trash wings that they'll ever have. And yeah, we advise them to go try another trash wing, but you'll always come back to the Fenton Bar and Grill for the best trash wings in America and slather up just like they're doing right there with that signature golden sauce. Absolutely mouth-wateringly delicious. I had a chicken Caesar the day before yesterday over at the Fenton Bar and Grill. In addition to my trash wings, I love what they've got there on the right side with their delicious and beautiful golden brown toasted rav. And they have fantastic burgers, great sandwiches, and great service. You'll love the people at the Fenton Bar and Grill, too. Stop by and say hi to the gang there. Megan leads the charge, and you'll say hi to Candy, and you'll say hi to a lot of good friends. Jamie will be there. Casey is there a lot of days. Really great group at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And when you go and you tell them Randy sent you, they're going to say, oh, I know Randy. And so I want you to do that when you go to the Fenton Bar and Grill to try the best trash wings you'll ever have. Easy to get to, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park on Rudder Road in Fenton. You can learn more by going to FentonBarandGrill.com. Check out the menu. When you stop by, also say hi to the greatest maitre d' in St. Louis. His name is Chuck Nash. Great guy, and you'll like him too. It's a great place. It's a dive with a vibe. They've got music on Fridays and Saturdays. Check it out. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill. Tell them Randy sent you.
I love that place. I love trash wings. It's fantastic.
It is.
God, I'm really hungry now.
Okay, so let's get to a couple of more chats. Infringement, St. Louis cover band with the Steven Matz trade in this year's draft. The Cardinals are deeper at first base. What ends up happening to Luke and Baker? I would think we talked earlier in the show, if you were here, about the Cardinals getting to the 40-man limit and having to put other players on the 40-man. I think Luke and Baker is as good as gone.
Yeah, he's one of those 10, 12 names that you can find pretty easily on the 40-man, unfortunately. Just there's a lot of bodies there, Lucan, and with the way that they needed power hitting at times this year, this might have been the season if anybody got hurt, but that was one of the places where they stayed kind of healthy and they kept having bodies pop up who could play first base and hit a little bit. And so, yeah, I'm sorry about you.
Yeah, and I think there's other guys when you look at the guys that have been on this roster this year, Hampson, Fermin, Prieto, there are going to be multiple players. Ciani, I would think Matt Koperniak, who we saw in spring training. I think those will all be people that don't find their way to the 40-man roster come December.
Yeah, and there's a number of relief pitchers who just haven't been able to make an impact this year, and with that being one of the solid spots again, because I'm pretty excited about the relief pitching, and that's one thing, kind of the silver lining with moving Ryan Helsley, potentially moving Maton, and heck, I would even be okay with the pinch of moving Romero as well, because then saying closer by committee with Granillo, Graceffo, and who am I blanking right now? Swanson, Riley O'Brien, letting those 4 guys just duke it out. Love it.
Yep. Yeah. The group that you'll have, and with Matt's gone now, and with Liberatore in the rotation, and John King hurt and probably gone as well, you're going to need probably to get another left-handed reliever during the offseason, because the only guy you have down there right now is JoJo. But you talk about closers, Leahy, who will probably wind up as a starter next year. But then I would give opportunities, and you know how I do it, Matthew? I would say whenever I have a lead, I'm going to give the ball to pitcher A. If pitcher A gets a save, then he gets the next save opportunity. If he gets a save, then he gets the next save opportunity. And then I'm going to take a zero tolerance policy. If you blow a save, you're out, and I'm moving on to the next guy. But I've got Graceffo, I've got O'Brien, I've got Swanson, I've got Granillo, I've got Romero. And then Leahy, but I think he's going to wind up being a starter.
What's your order? What's the order that you're?
Who gets the first shot?
Who gets the first shot? Who gets the second?
Okay, I'm going to give my first shot to Graceffo. I think
that makes sense.
I think Granillo is going to be my second guy, and then probably
Riley.
No, I think I'm going to go Swanson.
Okay,
and then O'Brien, and then Romero, and then you can always call up Fernandez if you want.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. Graceffo, Granillo, Riley O'Brien for me. Yep. I understand putting Swanson in there, but like I said, because he's getting multiple innings, I love an Andrew Miller. I love a guy who spins a sinker at 99 miles per hour and can go for 2 innings. That's a weapon in a bullpen right now. Similar how we need pitching. We are trading out pitchers and we have a logjam of batters. We haven't traded one batter.
Isn't that interesting? That's working. But hopefully they'll come up with some better roster construction in the future, because it just has not been really good. And by the way, and this is for another day, and we'll have plenty of time to discuss this, but the Cardinals are going to probably have to get a couple of starting pitchers in a budget manner, right? They are not going to go out and spend for pitchers like a couple of years ago when they gave $12 million to Gibson and 10 to Lynn, whatever it was. They're going to spend $22 million on a couple of starting pitchers for 2026. You're going to have your 5 guys, and you need a 6th and 7th starters. My guess would be it'll be players that we've never heard of before. They'll be 6-year minor league free agents, and maybe they'll work out, maybe they won't. But the Cardinals are going to have to get those guys, because they have nobody right now beyond really their first 4. They don't have a guy where you say, okay, that's a guy that you can count on going to the post every 5th day. You've got right now, and you're going to have to replace Michaelis too. Man, I wonder if he comes back. But you've got Gray, you've got Michaelis, you've got Liberatore, you've got Palante. Right?
Yep.
And
Leahy.
And then I think Leahy's going to be your next guy.
Yeah, I think we've kind of
got McGreevy this year, but Michael is gone next year. So,
but you're going to need to add 2 or 3 other bodies, because there's just no way you're going to be this healthy again.
Jags.
Yeah, and again, you get one of those from the KBO, and you keep on rolling.
Yeah.
RDH 66. This Blake guy hits for average, but not many home runs. Another Burleson for a team that needs a slugger. I'd take if you told me that I had a roster of like 7 or 8 Alec Burlesons and then a speedy center fielder and a good shortstop, I'll play you on that with that team. I'll play you with that team, a bunch of Alec Burlesons. I'll see what I can do.
Need some of them to be right-handed Alec Burleson.
That's true. I do need a couple of them to be righties, but Blaze's profile has changed. His slugging percentages and numbers don't make you see him like the power hitter he was when he was profiled that way. But again, there's room for a swing change to maybe bring back some of that power, and we'll see if that happens.
Yeah. The Astros have a young pitcher named Miguel Ulola. He's with Sugarland this year. 70 fastball, good curveball, okay slider, and he needs to work on his secondary pitches, but he's one of their top prospects in Houston, and they've done a really good job over the years of developing young pitchers. So if I could get a couple of young pitchers from Houston for Newt Bar, I would do it.
We got a text here from, I'm going to say Glassy. And before I'm going to read the text. Thinking about trading for Luis Robert Jr. for Lars and a couple of young players. Yeah. You make me think of a buddy I went to college with, and in college we played a lot of games. We'd mess around and play a lot of Monopoly because we were very competitive. We'd also play a game called Settlers of Catan a lot, and we also were in a lot of different fantasy leagues together. Mm-hmm. And this guy was adamant, and he would say it before you play the game. He'd say it before you start a fantasy season. I'm going to win every trade we make. And so I never, ever, in a single time in my life, ever traded with this guy. Because if you're going to announce beforehand that you're only going to make trades where you are confident that you're the winner, I'm not going to trade with you unless I know I can dupe you. And the White Sox are kind of like that buddy right now, where they are adamant that they refuse to lose the Luis Robert trade. They have to get so much for him that it feels like they're going to be the winners every time. They refuse to make any deal that they feel like isn't getting the complete 100% value for Luis Robert Jr. And that's not an organization I want to deal with a player like that. They're just being so stubborn. I'm not dealing with the White Sox. No thanks.
In 2023, Robert had an 857 OPS, 130 OPS plus. In 2024, he played in exactly 100 games. He hit 224 with a 657 OPS and an 86 OPS plus. This year, the OPS plus drops to 82 with a 213 batting average. He's played in 88 games. It's been a long time since Luis Robert Jr. was an effective major league hitter. And the Cardinals, first of all, they aren't in a position to go out and roll the dice and hope that a player that signed to the contract that he is winds up returning to form. And oh, by the way, the contract this year making $15 million, next year team option for $20 million, the year after that a team option for $20 million. I just don't want to take my chances on, especially my guys, making Luis Robert substantially better than he has been the last 2 years.
Yeah, it'd be an odd move in my opinion. KDO 34. I don't want to trade for 80 games with Luis Robert. The dude only plays half a season.
Right. Yeah, you're 100% right. So, and I wouldn't give up. Well, I get why teams that have good coaching staffs and good cultures want to trade for him, but I don't think that he's a fit here in St. Louis at the moment.
You know what? I like this from Cole Bass's left foot. Smash that like it's a trade deadline deal for a frontline starter, and subscribe before Mo offers you a minor league reliever instead.
There you go.
It's him saying it, not us. I'm okay with it.
That's STL Sports Central. And yeah, you do need to subscribe to the newsletter, and you can read Bernie Mikla's great work every single day. By the way, Bernie will be with us on the show tomorrow. But you also want to subscribe to this YouTube channel. You want to like this video, follow us on socials at STL Sports Central. Yeah, it's really a great place to be. And we're going to be here. If the Cardinals make another deal today, we'll be here working it, making sure that you know and have the opportunity to react to the latest Cardinal trade.
We have been overlooking this. Eddie Money 100 says, bring back Stratton.
Oh, man. You know, he was so much fun to have on the team. And
I saw Andrew Kittredge got traded today.
He did.
I forgot. I completely forgot about that name.
Did the Cubs get him?
Yeah, Cubs got him.
Yeah. So that'd be good. So let's bring back Stratton just so that we can make up for not getting Andrew Kittredge back. Why aren't we talking more about trading JoJo Romero? We're talking about Maton, but JoJo has arguably been your second best reliever the last 3 years behind Helsley. Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, because Romero is controllable after this year. You're going to lose Phil Maton as a free agent, as you were with Matz and Helsley. You do have Romero for one more year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
One more year of control. I mean, we've talked a lot about trading JoJo Romero. I keep throwing it out every chance I get. He's super cheap. Has a year of control. I think you could get a really nice couple pieces for him, especially from a team that doesn't want to boost their payroll up, but also is trying to win this offseason or win this postseason. I think JoJo Romero has a ton of value, and I would be shocked if they move him.
Here's your bullpen right now, though, and for next year, and see if you can think of a prospect that might fill the shoes here. But your bullpen right now: Graceffo right-handed, Leahy right-handed, Maton won't be here, right-handed, O'Brien right-handed, Swanson right-handed, and then Romero left-handed. You don't really have, and if you look at the 40-man, you don't really have a left-handed reliever. You've got Ryan Fernandez right-handed, you've got Granillo right-handed, you've got Hentz right-handed, King is on the IL, you've got Roderi Munoz right-handed, you've got Robertsay injured right-handed, Roby injured right-handed, Roycroft injured right-handed, and then you've got Zach Thompson who's on the 60-day and will not be back this season, and you really can't count on. So one of the things I like to have, especially when I'm playing Major League Baseball, is a left-handed reliever, a good left-handed reliever, so that when you're getting to a point where you have to face both Ohtani and Freeman in the same inning, that you've got a guy to get those guys out.
Yeah, and when you have a guy like JoJo, when you have that heft of a closer, it completely changes how you plan things. And listen, I like guys like Andre Granillo, like Ellipsis 150 points out, but does he have that level of killer pitches? Does he have the mindset, like you said, to face two of those three hitters in the same inning with the game on the line? You never know until you see it, but now's a good time to see it, I guess. But you know that JoJo has that killer mindset and has done it now for multiple years. And that gives you a completely different mindset going forward when you look at next year's build.
Yeah. And can you think of who would be on the horizon as their next left-handed guy? I don't think there is a next left-handed reliever in their system. Even in the system, I don't think they have that guy. So that's something they need to work on. Maybe Zach Thompson. Maybe they'll tell him next year, yeah, you can be our number one left-handed reliever. Maybe that'll be it.
I guess maybe. I mean, do you think like you have Jerpy and Eshawn Henderson, who are both? Yeah, I'm just talking about like for 2027 is like a potential shit. I'm just looking at lefties in the organization. Bryson Motts, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a lefty. He's another lefty.
And you hope that he's a starter.
God, it's really all righties.
Yeah,
you're right. Those are really the only three lefties in the organization after Quinn Matthews, who obviously you're not going to switch because I mean everybody else: Roby, Hence, Chenwei Lin, Nate Dom, Brian Holiday, Granillo, Rajic, Robersay, Franco, Bedell, Gastelum, Saladin. All those guys in the top 30 are all righties.
All right-handers. Sean of St. Losersville. Most of Mo's early success was from inheriting Walt Jocketty's work. There's no doubt that both Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols were drafted under the general managership of Walt Jocketty. By the way, the person pounding, and Walt said this, the person pounding the table to draft Yadier Molina in the room was John Mozeliak, who was the Cardinals scouting director at the time. But if you look at the 2011 World Series team, the third baseman was David Freese, was it not?
Yep.
First trade that John Mozeliak made was Jim Edmonds for David Freese. Shortstop was Rafael Furcal, was it not?
Yes.
I think they got Furcal during the season. Second baseman was Nick Punto, who Mo acquired during the season. Then you had Pujols. You had Berkman and Wright acquired by John Mozeliak. You had Jay, who came up under Mozeliak. You had Craig, who came up under Mozeliak. You had Holiday, who was traded for by Mozeliak. And then you look at that pitching staff, granted, in 2011, you did have Carpenter, which I will give you was so Pujols and Carpenter were the two main guys on those teams. But then if you look at the rest of that rotation from 2011, it was not really a Walt Jocketty formed rotation. So I think that Mo has a tendency to get the short end of the stick when people talk about that. Even Mike Matheny jokes about how he took over a Maserati. He really didn't, because he never had Pujols or Carpenter or a healthy Berkman or a healthy Furcal. By the way, the other starters on that team in 2011, Garcia, who came via Walt, Kyle Loesch, Jake Westbrook was a 2010 trade by Mo, Edwin Jackson, a deadline trade by Mo. The bullpen, Salas, Mo, McClellan, Mo guy, Jason Mott. Let's see. He was he wasn't drafted by, he was drafted by Mo, but he was a catcher when he was drafted. Mitchell Boggs, Trevor Miller, and then obviously he made the big trade for Zepchinski and Octavio Dotel and who is the other guy they got at the Arthur Rhodes. The bullpen in 2011 was like completely put together by John Mozeliak. So I don't think Mo gets enough credit for essentially being the architect of the 2011 and 2013 teams. That's you might not agree with me because Pujols and Carpenter were the centerpieces, but in terms of volume of players, way more of those teams were acquired by John Mozeliak than Walt Jocketty.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. We had somebody asking. We got Holiday in 2009 because Ellipses asked.
Yeah,
wasn't Jocketty still the GM when the Cardinals got Holiday?
Jocketty was fired after the 2007 season.
Yes, October 2007. They acquired Matt Holiday on July 24th, 2009. So a year, almost 2 full years after Jocketty had left.
Yep. And then Andrew Lee says Jeff Luhnow leaves after the World Series and turns Houston into a powerhouse. They did finish in last. I think 4 times, lost 100 games. But they did draft Mark Appel, who was a huge part of that World Series championship team, and Brady Aiken, who was also really big, I think, for that team, right?
Yeah, pretty crucial.
If I'm not mistaken.
They were the guys hitting the trash cans.
Oh, okay. You know what else is interesting is that
Can't even argue it, can you, Wilson? Because it happened. It's a
Yeah.
fact, and you can't see. You just got to sit there and stew in it.
Jeff Luhnow is a smart guy. But that being said, when you look at the 2017 team that people think that was built on the shoulders of all of those horrible years where they won 56 games, 55 games, 51 games, 70 games, and you think, okay, well, they drafted so well to build that 2017 World Championship team. Brian McCann, their catcher, came in a draft or as a free agent. In a trade. He was a trade. Yuli Gurriel, first baseman, Cuban free agent. Jose Altuve, drafted by Ed Wade, or maybe signed as a free agent, but before Jeff Luhnow even got there. Correa, first pick in the draft when one of the years they won 50 games. Bregman, second pick in the draft that they were given because they couldn't sign one of their first picks, Appel and Aiken. Nori Aoki, free agent from Japan. George Springer, also a product of the Ed Wade regime before Luhnow got there. Josh Reddick, free agent. Carlos Beltran, free agent. Pitchers, Mike Fiers, free agent. Charlie Morton, free agent. Dallas Keuchel. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Keuchel also was a product of the Ed Wade regime there. Brad Peacock, a trade. McCullers Jr. was drafted by Luhnow, and then Colin McHugh was a product of the previous administration. And then they also traded for Justin Verlander. So that was not a team, and granted, they did win the World Series. They were really good. But I think there's this myth out there that Jeff Luhnow built this incredible system and this team was all a product of that system. No, most of it was trades and free agent signings or guys that were there before Luhnow even got there.
Yeah, I've never understood this argument from people. It's pretty easy to break down and see where the delineation is. And also, he was part of the organization before he was the GM as well. So it's like, are you gonna say every single piece of every move that was made before he was the GM he didn't have his hands in, he wasn't a part of, he doesn't deserve any credit for that stuff as well? Like, he was in the organization for a long time before. Yeah. So like, even when he wasn't the GM, you got to give him, he's part of everything. I know Ali Marmol thinks the same way about other coaching staffs. Jake Hall says, I'm afraid because they didn't do any actual runway this year that almost nothing will be learned or gained this year, which pushes back the competitive window even further. You might not be happy with the amount of runway, but to say they didn't do any runway would be factually wrong from my view, because if you look at where a lot of these players were to start the season and where they are now, I'd say you learned a lot about them. I do think it's interesting. Ali Marmol in the post game did have some interesting comments about the young players. He said, you're evaluating consistently. You want to see them hold their good moments for longer than a week, longer than 2 weeks. You're going to have ups and downs, but you're evaluating their ability to shorten the times it's not going well and make adjustments quicker. Up to this point, we've seen a lot of that, up and down, individually and collectively. So we're continuing to evaluate their ability to just hold their good adjustments than longer than we're seeing at the moment. And honestly, I think we've seen that from some players this year. We've seen guys like Matthew Liberatore as a pitcher, Mason Wynn in stretches as a hitter, Jordan Walker as a hitter over the last month, Nolan Gorman as a hitter Gorman over this entire season as a guy who completely bottomed out in the second half of last season, continues to hit now. Ivan Herrera developed as a hitter this season. I mean, Wilson Contreras, we went from having a lot of questions about if the defense was going to be hurt, if we were going to be looking at an error every 3 games because Mason Wynn keeps blitzing balls by Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras played great first base and pretty much locks down that position for the next 2 years at a solid bit of money with a good hitter and a good fielder. We got a lot of answers for this season. Yeah, we'd like more, and then clearly Ollie would like more and clearer answers, but I feel like we got a lot of answers.
Well, and you would have liked for Jordan Walker to stay healthy the whole year, but he runs into the wrist problem and then the appendicitis. You would have liked for them to have played Gorman a little bit more earlier in the first month and a half. Then you would like for him to stay healthy. There were things out of their control. By the way, I think on the other side of that coin, you also found out about Lars Nootbaar, that he is essentially a StatCast guy who can't stay healthy. And I think that's probably why, if he gets moved today, they'll say, yeah, we could afford to move him because the runway that we gave him, he didn't take complete advantage of. So I do think that I felt like I have learned a lot, and there's still 2 months to go. Kyle Finnegan, from Washington to the Tigers. He's a Detroit native, and so the Tigers get the closer that they have been looking for on this Trade Deadline Day. Don't forget that we have coverage for you. Whenever a deal happens, we'll have almost immediate response, and you'll be able to be a part of it. And tomorrow, Bernie will be on the show. Let me get this from So Sad 4545. These podcasts and other podcasts needs retired Cardinal players that know what they're talking about. A lot of these podcasters only has a bunch of sitting behind computers type people. That's what makes us great, is that we have people that have covered the sport for a long time, that talk to people on the inside for a long time. We're thrilled that the Cardinals have as much respect for us as they do and provide us access to the ball club so that we are able to talk to people. And we're just really excited that we can bring you what we bring you at STL Sports Central.
Yeah, we are sitting behind computers, but sometimes we're sitting behind computers at Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
That's useful.
Yeah, it is. So, and some of us, and we can't tell you everything that we know, but some of us, Bernie Miklasz will be on the show tomorrow, get pretty good info. And so I think if you knew, you'd be surprised by the places some of us get our info.
Yeah, I think we had some fun today.
Yeah, it was great.
That is a bummer that one of the potential relief pitching opportunities has been taken away. But it is interesting to me, the Padres, that they want to move Mason Miller to a starting role.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of room with the Padres needing a fielder and a relief pitcher, where I feel like there's still a Padres deal here for the Cardinals when it comes to reliever. Also, Rangers still active as well.
Yes, and Maton, the Blue Jays are still going to be
Blue Jays as well. Yes,
a relief pitcher too.
The only thing about the Blue Jays is I'm just a little bit bottom third league prospects pool.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering. I'm like, I don't know. Wouldn't be as excited if it's Blue Jays. The reason why I like the Padres, and I know Brandon Schaefer's been tweeting about this as well, is the potential for the package factor, and that they need a fielder and they need the relief pitcher.
I wonder if they would get a guy like Maton, though, would he fit into their top 4 relief pitchers?
I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like
those guys are fantastic. The bullpen that AJ Preller has put together for the Padres this year, and this is taking nothing away from our guy. It's more of Maton. It's more a reflection of what the Padres have down in their bullpen, with Suarez having a great year. He's got 30 saves and leads the league. Jason Adam has a 1.89. Morejon has a 1.63. Wandy Peralta has been great this year.
But if you can, it's more about pushing a guy like Yuki Matsui, who's got almost a 5 ERA in over 40 games pitched this year.
I mean, you're killing a fly with a sledgehammer here.
A little bit, but that's what you do when you're a championship. That's what you do when you have to beat the Dodgers.
Yep.
You have to come to your roster and kill the fly with a sledgehammer.
And by the way, with them moving Mason Miller into the rotation,
they can kick one of their guys out. That's a good
wonder if there's a starting pitcher to be moved down. They are moving Pivetta. They might trade Cease. They aren't moving Yu Darvish to the bullpen, I don't think. King is hurt. Maybe they don't have a guy to move down into the bullpen at the moment.
Steven Matz says, I've seen both Lars and Burley are both on the market. If this is true, I prefer they trade Burley, as he does not have old man skills. He will not age well. Lars does and will. I don't know, man. As someone who grew up watching Larry Walker, like, Burleson seems like the kind of guy who just is always going to be able to hit you 280. And he might not be able to stretch that double out anymore when he puts it in the gap, but he's still going to put it in the gap for a single.
Newt has old man durability already.
Really good point.
That's unfortunately. All right. We appreciate you being a part of the show. We appreciate our friends at DraftKings, where the crown is yours, and the Fenton Bar and Grill. We want you to head there for lunch, happy hour, dinner. It's all fantastic. Great job by Wilson getting us on the air. Matthew, this was a lot of fun. We appreciate all of you. Trade deadline day, there will be more. Once the Cardinals make one more move, they're going to make another move. We'll be talking about that here at STL Sports Central, and we will see you tomorrow morning just after 10 on the Randy Karraker Show right here on STL Sports Central.